Hey, this is Dr. Kid again with the Shake Up. Today is July 17, Tuesday, and the time 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Glad to have you on with us today. If you've been with us before, just keep on keeping on with us, okay? And so we're with the Shake Up. You know how that goes. If you don't, sometime when you mix something, you know, like this, put your favorite stuff in, let it sit a while, all the good stuff run to the bottom, okay? Then you start drinking, then you discover that, wait a minute, I'm just drinking some water. So you shake it up a little bit like this, shake it up, and you get it, then, man, that's when it really, really tastes good. And so that's what we're doing here with relationships when they tend to settle like sediment. If we do a little bit of the shake up, then, and the relationship you tend to have a better experience of the relationship. So again, just welcome. We're going to get right into the show in just a moment. But listen, got it. Let me just take care of a little bit of business here. On September 24th in Atlanta, we are having a rest stop refueling your relationship. It's going to be in Atlanta. September 24th, and so we still have we still have some special rates that we're working on here. Couples at $299, and singles at $165. And that's for a whole day. That's like from 8 until 4:30. So we're not cutting you cheap. We're not giving you just a couple of hours. We're giving you all day long, and it is going to be a blast. My wife and me, we're going to be shaking it up and doing our rest stop thing. So we just want you to come along. And if you're listening, if you're watching, if you're a follower, just pass the word along, that on September 24th, we'll be in Atlanta doing our thing. Okay. We want you to be a part of that. All right. So listen, we're thankful that you do this with us every week. So what do we want you to do? We want you to share this stuff. We want you to like it. We want you to follow, share, subscribe. Like it, follow, share, subscribe. This is how, I continue to be on the air, bringing these different kind of messages and different kind of information to you week after week. So the more you share, follow, and like and subscribe, the better it's going to be, the broader our audience will be. And then it just kind of pushes me every week to bring something novel or just to reframe something for you. Okay. Enough of that stuff now. Also said. So here's what I'm going to do. Tonight we have a returning person. Listen, she did such a wonderful job the last time. And I told her, listen, we're going to bring you back on. And you probably thought I was not going to bring anybody on. Listen, this is the Shake Up with Dr. Kitten. Tonight we have, an amazing person. She is a therapist. She's going to tell you about herself again. So please welcome with me, Melanie Spence. Hey, Melanie,
Hello.
how are
Good
you?
evening. Doing fine.
All
Yes.
right. Listen, just go ahead and just bring us in, introduce yourself again, refresh some people's minds and, some of the new people who didn't know you from the last time. But I just said, listen, we had you on the last time. You did a great job. We just happen to have you back. Go ahead and tell us about
Oh,
yourself.
well, thank you. Yes. Well, I'm Melanie Spence, a mother of two, wife to one husband. Um, in my former life, I was a full-time therapist working with kids ages 3 to 18 and then their families, and really doing crisis stuff to make sure that we could get everyone stable and doing well. Kind of transitioned more onto the administration side of psychology and counseling, screening and getting people the help that they need through a touch of peace. So yeah, we're just being eclectic with this, and just working with the other side of things right now, while I try and make sure that our little ones get to where they need to be.
Oh, otherwise, you're going to be hearing mommy, mommy, mommy. so,
Yes, yes.
okay. So listen. anything particular why you transition? Because you're a great therapist. I mean, why would you leave a big void like that in people's lives? I mean, come on.
You have to make sure that there's a balance, and this kind of falls into what we're going to talk about tonight. But yeah, it's a balance. You have to look at what's going on in your life and
Mhm.
make sure that you give the attention needed to the things that you need at that time. And that's not to say that the buck stops there, but you do need to transition when you need to, put some things on the shelf, and then when it's time, go back to the shelf and pull the things you need to and keep it going.
Listen, that's great. Sounds to me like you're talking about the difference between self-interest and selfishness. My
Yes.
definition. You got what I'm saying, right? So
Yes.
so so yeah. And I think that's really important. The difference between self-interest and selfishness, because they're just so poles apart.
Yes, they
You
are.
know, you
Yes.
know.
Very true.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking a little bit, maybe hitting a little bit on balance this evening. So why don't you just go ahead and tell us what you got for us tonight, and then we'll see where we head with this balance stuff.
I recently was having a conversation with someone, and they were talking about it. We were talking about how we are observing kids and adolescents working on their peer pressure, how they're dealing with others, um, how they are defining themselves and where they're going. And this individual said, I really didn't become comfortable with myself or what I had to offer or what I had to give um, until I was in my adult years. So my question was, okay, well, so then at what age do we decide that we're okay
Oh,
with
okay.
what we have to bring to the table? At what age does that kind of kick in? Because there's some people that have a hard time getting to that point, but there are some that are able to do it younger. Because we deal with some people where it was one of the goals while they were growing up, that was instilled in them. That was something that their social interaction just had them get that way. But then we have the others who you know they have to wait till they're older to say, I don't have to prove anything to you.
Now,
So
is that does how much does it really matter though to their social contribution? Those who are early starters and those who are late starters, but they get there. They
that
get
is, yeah, that's a good question, because some people define the peer pressure
yeah.
in adulting. They think that is something that just happens in your teens and preteens thing. But if you're looking at adulting in the way that we look at it, peer pressure happens there more so than anything, because it affects your work, it affects your social interaction, it even affects your personal relationships. So it still
Mm.
has a important part to play as an adult. And we have a tendency to define it as oh, well, this is what it is to be an adult. No, these are still choices and influences that you are trying to navigate through as an adult, that you thought only took place while you were developing up to that point.
Okay, so what we're talking about then is this peer pressure then at somewhere. So are you saying then that it basically exists along the continuum of life? Uh, you
Yes.
know, so so like at an earlier age then, kindergarten, going through early school, stuff like
Hmm.
that. What do we do when these kids, what do we tell them when they come home and they complain that little Johnny's beating up on them, or somebody's laughing at them, or their clothes, or their what they drink, or whatever it is, their shoes, because that kind of stuff, I'm thinking can
Hmm.
impact them at that early age. And if they don't work it through, it can affect them when they're 25, 35, 45, 55, and 60.
Right.
Looking back on
Because
their
it
lives, go
right,
ahead.
because it wasn't addressed.
Okay.
Because it wasn't addressed in a healthy way.
Okay.
Because then you have an adult that you're trying to um, help develop self assurance.
Mhm.
You have an adult that you're trying to help deal with self acceptance, compassion, and having grace for themselves at an older age, which should have been cultivated while they were younger.
That's a nice
Because
word. I
really,
like that.
because that's kind of the seed you want to put into the ground at that point, so it can be nurtured and get stronger to where you're a more balanced adult and don't have to continually learn the same lesson over and over again, each relationship or each interaction you have.
Right. So, are there some things, and I like to go back, because I like to tell stories about my wife's garden.
Hmm.
And so she put these little suckers in there. Sometimes she put seeds in there. But one of the things I discovered and was that the soil, the
Hmm.
quality of the soil, will have something to say
Right.
about the product of the
Hmm.
co- so now, so what I'm talking about, and and she prepared the soil really well
Mm.
before she put these little plants inside there.
Right.
These, so I'm using the soil
Hmm.
as a metaphor for
Right.
the family home, the family environment. So, can you talk about the importance then of the soil, the family soil, and how does that contribute to the picture that
Hmm.
people have and develop of themselves?
Right. Well, and you have to go to the definition of peer pressure. So
Okay.
peer pressure is influence that is exerted by a group or individuals that conform your values, your beliefs, and your behaviors.
That's a
So
lot.
if yeah, it's a whole. I mean, it's a whole basket that you have to consider. So if you're dealing with, if we're starting at the beginning with the soil, as
Right.
parents, as guardians, as overseers of anyone that we care about, you have to consider who they interact with, what your value system is going to be, what your belief system is going to be, and how you're going to cultivate that. So you have to be careful about your surroundings. You have to be careful about who you interact with. You have to have the energy and have the time to address things that come up. Okay, so Johnny has an issue at school. Oh, somebody talked about my color. They said that I'm too dark. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They're fine. No,
Oh,
that you're fine. That is a learning moment for you to instill in them the importance of self-worth, where they came from, why they are the way that are. Be proud of the person that they are and how they are a contributor to others by being who they are. And that's, once again, that's a seed. That's moistening the soil, getting it to where it needs to be. So it's like, you know what? Yeah, I am okay. So then, somebody comes, they're quote unquote joking, whatever. You don't have an emotional pile over in the corner, that you have to kind of scoop up and kind of take back together.
well, okay. So we're talking about, oops, hit my microphone. I try to drop my mic on you. Bang. Listen, listen. And I like what you're saying. It makes so much sense, but this peer pressure stuff, although all those, the way you defined it, it
Mhm.
is it is so all encompassing, though. It's not just segmented into parts. It
Hmm.
seems like it's all those parts kind of interwoven like this,
Hmm.
just like this here, and and I'm thinking that, and you can tell me this, if one part of their experience, when experienced, how does it impact other parts, which then impact the whole self
Hmm.
that they're coming with.
Right, because peer pressure has to do with not only your psychological, but
Yeah.
it also has to do with the emotional.
Okay.
And there's good peer pressure, and then there's bad peer pressure.
Okay. Well,
So
well, well. Can you? Well, I'm glad you said that. I don't want to
mhm,
interrupt you, but
no, you're
finish
fine.
saying what you're saying, and then I want you to talk about that piece. Okay,
Right,
good and bad.
yes, because
Okay, great.
some people when they hear peer pressure,
Yes.
they already go to the negative side of it and say, "Oh, just peer pressure is all bad." No, there's good peer pressure and there's bad peer pressure. There's the good peer pressure motivates you to be better. Our good peer pressure, you see some positive influences or some positive things, and it kind of encourages you to want to do that. So there's good in that, and but the bad is the one that kind of puts you in a place where you're disabled and crippled and codependent on some things that will not propel you toward a positive direction.
Okay. Now, with positive peer pressure,
Hmm.
is it possible for a child whose capacity or their ability may not allow them to perform at the way that they're being directed in this positive way? If they
Hmm.
have a fear of, say, failing,
Hmm.
would that impact them, even though you are asking them, trying to point them in a very positive way?
It can be debilitating if left unchecked. Yes.
Okay.
But then especially if you're dealing with it from the infancy stage of it, that's where it's you have to see what they're mentally capable of understanding and completing. So it's little tasks that kind of encourages them to complete bigger tasks.
Or okay. So if little tasks encourages them to complete bigger tasks, I'm thinking now
Hmm.
that we should be careful what we ask them to do so that they don't fail.
Yes.
Is that about it? Am I getting that
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes, it is. But also, it needs to be there has to be a balance because we don't want them to be we don't want them to not challenge
There you
themselves.
go.
So
Yeah.
because there needs to be a balance. It's a growth opportunity, and there always needs
Yeah.
to be a time for learning and growth in
Mm.
whatever is going on. So it's not just leaving them where they are and coddling them and saying, "Oh, you didn't get it? Okay, you're good, you're good." No, it's in us to want to feel good about ourselves. In order to do that, there has to be some growth, there has to be some progression.
Right. Now, does where does acceptance and support comes? Where
It
does it
does.
fit? Where does it fit into this growth uh, experience that they're having? With their sense of self and their positive self image. Where does it fit?
That falls into your personal relationships. So it within the personal relations, after you have have gotten to the place where you have built some healthy boundaries, that is a place where you can welcome in like-minded are safe people that can help you develop or mature in the areas where you have been deficient.
Okay,
Mhm.
so if we're gonna do that, then it just seemed to me. I mean, I know we're going to get to the to later on in the later years, but I'm just so fascinated by the stuff you're talking about. With these younger kids,
Uh-huh.
and it seemed to me that somehow there is this a great responsibility for caretakers.
Yes. Yes, there
You
is.
know,
And it's a struggle. I mean, and we're talking about this in layman's terms. But yeah, definitely in the trenches, it's a struggle. But it's a very important role that the caretaker plays in this whole development
yeah,
of a healthy self
yeah,
and realization of who we are and feeling comfortable with that.
right. Is it possible though that some parents may want their child to succeed more than they have the capacity to succeed at a point? And or I've heard some people say, well, listen, I didn't get it right, or I didn't get all the stuff that I wanted, so I want to make sure that my children don't go down the same road that I went down, and they
Hmm.
get more than me. Is it possible that that they could be putting some pressure on some of these children in order to achieve their goal, without considering, can this is this child ready for this? Because some people are just late bloomers.
Right. Well, yes, they're late bloomers, but there's that need to kind of compare.
Yeah.
And the
Okay. Yeah.
comparisons
Yeah.
can be debilitating in themselves because and that can really attack a person's self-worth as well if they're constantly being compared to someone else or what someone else is doing. That's why when we're looking at the peer pressure, the family unit and what they have to contribute to it is huge as well, because that can be the deciding factor in failure to launch. You have these kids that don't necessarily develop to the best of what they can be because they decide to settle into the criticisms that they continue to hear growing up. You're never going to be anything. You're not like your cousin, you're not like your daddy, you're not like your sister. All of these things, these are just little self-doubts that just kept being sprinkled to where they decided, well, it's not going to happen, so it's not going to happen. you have you have others that use that as fuel to put them in a place where there's like, well, I'm not going to be this way, or they said that I'm not going to be able to do it, so this is where I'm going to to shine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, there's a comment saying, "Listen, that my parents always wanted me to do it this way. That's why I gave in to into peer pressure."
Hmm.
And let's talk about some reality things now, maybe, and then maybe we can just move on. I know I said that before, but let's talk about some reality thing, because I remember when the first time I went to New York City, and I
Hmm.
took a look at the Empire State Building. I was looking at this huge monster building, at one time the tallest building in the world, grand and gracious,
Hmm.
and then I never thought about looking or exploring or even wondering how deep into the granite of Manhattan they had to go to settle the foundation.
Right.
And we don't see the foundation. We're just concerned with going through those rotating doors,
Hmm.
and then going in and then going all the way up to 104th floor so you can see all over, But we a lot of times we don't see that. We just say, well, man, time for this building to get a paint job, or time
Hmm.
for them to put some new windows in, or time for them to do this. All the things that we can see, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how, we can do that, and we don't take much time sometimes to think about the foundation of these kids. So this is what I'm saying. It is so important, I'm thinking,
Hmm.
for the architect. And the architect here, they are the parents.
Hmm.
So parents just need to, so you're right. It's more than, oh, you're going to be okay. It's more than
Hmm.
listen to the girl talking or women. Well, when my kids do this and my kids do this, well, and then sometimes when our kids are not as doing as well as the other person, we make all kind of mistakes and say, well, I haven't been able to take them there. That's probably why they're not doing as well. I think we
Hmm.
really need to be upfront with
Right.
ourselves so that we can be upfront with our kids and position them to go along the spectrum of life.
Hmm.
You know,
Yes.
yeah. So okay. So here we are then. Here we are, and I know we've been talking about young kids. It's to me, it's like having clay in your hands. Clay, and you can mold it in whatever way you want to mold the clay. Okay.
Hmm.
So now the clay doesn't tell the potter how to mold it. That's the potter's job. That's
Mm.
our job as parents, as school teachers, and other at church, and that kind of stuff. So
Yes.
so so we move along now to the say the preteens.
Uh-huh.
And we're getting into some muddy stuff now, because the preteens, when we get to the teens, the teens are all up into how I look and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So where do you think some of the preteens are? The 10 and 11 and so on. Where are they in terms of this? How are they going to demonstrate where they are?
Yeah, the preteens are a real tricky situation, because I mean, I don't know if a lot of people quite understand the kind of no man's land that they kind of get sucked into, and then they come out
Yeah.
on the other
Yes.
side,
Yeah. Yeah.
after just such and it's just all muddled, because you have the identity crisis, you have the emotional instability. I mean, I think about my moodiness as a teen, and I seriously apologize to my parents all the time. And mind you, we were they were setting the stage to experience wonderful things, fun things, but I just couldn't flip the switch and actually truly enjoy it, because I mean, they have such a hard time managing their emotions and managing just all it is that they're trying to go through during those stages.
Yeah.
But it is important, and I think what kind of happens is, uh when they tap out, us as adults and caretakers stuff, we decide to kind of tap out too, for their safety.
Yeah.
But but there always has to be some level of engagement, and there is a lot of good feedback that kind of takes place when you don't necessarily just leave them to flounder and figure it out for themselves.
Right.
If anything, that's more of a reason to be present, more of a reason to be visible, more of a reason to be involved, even if you continue to get the pushback and the attitudes and all of those things, because even in the midst of all of that, they still need that those components, and they appreciate them, even though they don't know how to put it into words, or if it doesn't translate into their actions. These are things that are still needed.
All right. Thank you so much, man. And listen, for those of you that are listening in, my guest tonight is Miss Melanie Spence, and she is a professional in her own world. And she is taking me to school tonight, even though I got gray hair. She taking me to school. I'm supposed to know all this.
We're
But I'm so
sharing. We're
glad. I'm
sharing.
so glad. Just share this thing, and just get a few more of your friends to come on with us, because she's just sharing some great piece of information with us today. Listen, I just want to say, listen, those kids, say 10, 11, 12, 9 sometimes, depending on where they are on their growth and developmental
Right.
part.
It is starting younger. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes, it is. Listen, they're not kids,
No.
and they didn't begin, and traditional thinking say you got to the adulthood starts in teens. So let me
Hmm.
just go along with it. They're not kids.
Yeah.
Some look like they're kids.
Hmm.
Some look like they're not kids.
Right.
And then there's this thing in our heads, and so we start to treat them in a particular way.
Hmm.
And all of this stuff here is framing their self picture. Their self esteem and everything
Hmm.
that comes along with that, because you're right, they're in kind of a no man's land.
Hmm.
And some are enjoying it because then, I get to it. And others are saying, well, no, I want to be a big kid. How come I can't do this? Oh,
Right.
so and so, oh, so and so's kids, I'm older than he is and he gets to go out and do this.
Right. Yes.
You know. So I guess we have to be very, very careful with that. So then, but let's get into the teens.
Oh, the
A
teens.
whole lot of stuff happens when they hit that. Because I'm not a kid anymore.
Hmm.
I've heard that one. I'm not a kid anymore. What? I was 13 yesterday. I'm not a kid anymore. Like, oh, geez,
Right.
really? One day makes a difference. They don't
Right.
understand it. They don't understand the implication of growth and developmental process.
Right.
It's not calendar bound. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, what once again, they're still on their own little conveyor belt. That the scenery hasn't changed, but their minds are, every time they wake up, their mind is giving them a brand new idea that they think they should try, and they're seeing, like you said, they're seeing others who may not have the involvement that is needed to kind of help guide. Um, but there is a balancing act that comes along with dealing with the teens, because there needs to be framework taking place to where they're developing and dealing with choices and things, but that does not come without guidance. So a lot of
Yes.
people, yes, a lot of people say, oh well, they're older, they can think for something. No, until they pay their own bills, live in their own spots.
You
Uh,
didn't say that, did you?
oh yeah, I mean, we still have some contributions and some guidelines that we help them with, because once again, they're still in that frame of mind where they may not know exactly how to ask for it, because they are having such an emotional pull between, I'm an adult, I'm not, I'm having these feelings, I'm not. So they do need to continue to have that type of guidance moving forward. So
Okay.
we don't, that's still not an area or a place where we check out. That's still not an area or a place where we allow, and if we're not careful, because peer pressure is everywhere. You have to decide what type of peer pressure you're going to be involved with and who is going to be administering that. If you do not develop a healthy way of dealing with it, then they are left to the outside world that will implement some things that you're not, neither of you all are ready for.
Okay. All right. So I think there's a certain kind of normalcy in the deposited input into some children,
Hmm.
all children.
Yes.
But there are some homes where children do not get, you know, the right kind of acting out so that they can copy. They just don't get that, you know.
Hmm.
You know, for a number of reasons. And I'm not saying that I'm not making a negative comments about the homes. I'm just talking about the outcome of certain homes,
Mhm,
and certainly a single mother and people become single for a number of reasons. So I'm not saying
mhm,
anything bad about single mothers, but who is trying to raise a child or a number of children, her availability because she's got to work or she's trying to go to school or she's still got to provide for them. You know, so how does her availability or the lack thereof, contribute to how they see themselves and the peer pressure piece? Is there any relationship between any of that?
there can be some correlation to that,
Okay.
but you also have to think about the fact that when you do have the time with them, make sure that it's meaningful, because there are a lot of times, yes, because you have different responsibilities and things that don't necessarily allow you to be present as much as you want to be. When you are present, then that's the time there's just a lot of discipline, there's just a lot of this that going on, to where you just want to take care of all of these things. But it's the quality of time that is important, and that needs to be the focus.
Okay.
Quality time. Quantity, yes, it would always be nice. I mean, it would be nice to be able to do that in many situations, but because we do have to work, because we do have other responsibilities and stuff, we need to focus on the quality of it as opposed to the quantity, and make sure that those times that we do have are impactful. Because if you think about it, um uh, the kids, they just want to know that they're loved by their parents. The parents can either be together, the parents can either be apart, and whoever is representing that piece, because it looks different for different people. So whether it's grandparents, whether it's whoever the guardian is,
Hmm.
the quantity, it would be nice, but it's the quality and the meaningful relationships that are, and what you're pouring into them while you're with them, which is important. But also you making sure that what the kids are involved in, where they go, what they're doing, also falls in line with what you're trying to push and implement at home. And if
Okay.
it's not doing that, then that needs to be reevaluated, and some sort of shift needs to take place.
Okay. So it's more than, because I know there's a lot of peer pressure around, and even the school system, where some school system was trying to say, listen, we want to go uniform, so that they
Okay.
do this, so they don't have this kind of a have or have nots kind of a motif going on in the schools. So you're right. It's a quality. It's more than the name brand stuff that
Mhm.
they have, although that may have something to do with the peer pressure. Some kids may get pressured and teased, and so on and so forth. And so
Mhm.
some parents, because they don't have the capacity to give them the quality of time, because of the relationship between quality and quantity, they may just give them things,
Mm. Mhm.
you
Yes.
know, hoping that will cut down on the kind of a teasing and stuff that comes along with peer pressure. Okay. Uh, oh, okay. Okay. So, conversation about diagnosing girls with autism and how they mask the trait due to socialization. Well, do you want to take a stab at that, or how are we going to do this? I'm sure we'll play this around. Can you talk about conversation about diagnosing girls with autism as opposed to how they mask the trait due to socialization? Okay.
Well, the socialization, that I mean, that's in the question. What are they? where is this socialization coming from this from the school, or from a like a psychological diagnosis?
Right. So of course we don't know that. So we're
Hmm.
going to speculate on that. But the other thing is, where are they on the spectrum?
Right.
You know, because it's not like you got it and you got it.
No,
There are
right.
different.
Yeah, there
They're
the
different.
functionalities, yeah,
Yeah.
the functionalities of it are broad when you go up and down the spectrums, because
Mhm.
there are those. I have seen some who are on the spectrum that have a healthier development as far as self realization and self expression, but then you have those that don't, due to their capacity to of understanding their exposure, and just overall developmental levels. So it
Yeah.
does depend.
Right. You're right. Absolutely. Then could it also be that some of those, like you're saying, that have this healthy outlook, could it be that their parents, caregivers, and their circle of influence have accepted the fact that that they are on the spectrum, but give it some sense of normalcy, saying that it's not you, it's your condition. You
Okay.
understand what I'm saying here? It's
Hmm.
not you, the person. It is your condition. So that the person is always validated.
Hmm.
It's always validated, you know, and you work with their condition.
Hmm.
And so they're saying, I know it was about girls, but do you think there is something different in the way they try to mask their this, given where they are on the spectrum? I mean, and maybe just fitting in. Do you think there's a difference on that? Can you speak to that? I mean,
What the ones that I've worked with, there may be a difference in it. There is that need for acceptance. There's that need for you know attention, and it can get, if unchecked, it can get to a place where it could be problematic. But also that also falls on the quality of involvement and who you have working with them. So it can be, if left to its own, it could, develop into something that is unhealthy. But making sure that you're addressing the understanding on that level with the individual, so that they can kind of cultivate where they're from and say, you know, I am I am still a contributor here. What I'm contributing, how I'm contributing, we need to make sure that it's not only appropriate, but it's putting me in a place where I am growing. Is important. And it varies. Like I said, it varies with the developmental capacities, but it's still a valuable contribution.
right. And one of the things I have not worked with this population in several years, but it even happens in adulthood though, that
Mhm.
sometimes we look for things about ourselves that we don't like, and we find it in other people, and we
Mm,
project our unhealthy stuff, and then we tease them, you
mm,
know not because of who they are, but because of who we are. We're always looking for somebody to mirror some things about us. And I was just wondering if the degree to which, if there's any truth in that, which I think there's some research on that too, and say we will do that. We will project, transfer, we'll do whatever we need to do, all of this stuff onto others, because we're having a difficult time with it, or because we were teased as children, and we have not accepted that. So there may be some internal pressure there to try to, like the question was, how do you mask that, to try to
mm.
hide that? There may be some external pressure, like you need to do this, you need to do better, you need to. And then
Right.
what happens when we do that, I think we can forget about the person, the
Right.
person and get lost into what we think the person ought to achieve.
Right. I mean,
Right.
there's some, especially if you're actually addressing some spectrum issues and stuff like it. There's there's overkill on some things. Like
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I've seen it to where they're over affectionate. It
yeah,
to a point where it's not quite appropriate. But there are areas you need to be guided, and someone needs to help you be aware of what is appropriate and what isn't. Someone needs to be able to work with you. And I think which is one of the most frustrating things for educators and things of that nature. We don't have enough manpower to actually just really address these things with individuals that have these developmental issues in the way that they actually need to be addressed. Yeah, and so it can be frustrating, and it can get to the point where, um, especially if you're dealing with someone that on any type of level is like, oh, you're pretty. Okay, I'm pretty. So now, what do I need to do to make sure that everyone knows, everyone feels it? So then that's where if I'm understanding correctly, then you get into areas where you start overcompensating, masking things, and going to a place that is not necessarily appropriate. It
right,
can
right.
be it can so it does get into a different area that because you were not um monitored correctly.
Yeah, yeah. So true, and so I think sometimes parents need to be very careful how they try to recreate some parts of themselves in their
Mhm.
children, that which they failed at. They want their child to succeed at so that they can use their child as this trophy and say, look what my child did. And as long as they can keep you focusing on what their child or children did, okay, it
Right.
takes the focus off of them and their failure or their what
Right.
they
Yeah.
you know so
And
I
then
think.
you have right. So then you have adults that aren't have no true transparency. They have a whole bunch of baggage and issues that they're coming with. They have a hard time really being their authentic self in maintaining relationships, talking to people and dealing with conflict or anything like that, and even valuing their self-worth or their input that they have to share with others.
Right. I was talking with I've heard more than one. There's several clients saying, "Well, listen," especially the women that say things like, "Well, I'm 35, and I'm not married, and pretty soon, I'll be at the age where having children, can be, may not be beneficial for the children." And I said,
Right.
"Well, where'd you get this from?" And they get so much peer pressure
Hmm.
from parents, from
Yes.
family, from friends. Well, girl, when you going to get married? And they don't do that to the guys. I don't hear this from the guys.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
I hear, I
Yeah.
hear, I hear this from from the females. So can you speak to that? As a female, what messages are we sending to them when we really do that and say that to them about themselves?
It's a lot of conversation. Well, when you're dealing with being a woman, there are a lot of compartments that you have
That
to
I don't know
really
about.
deal with. Yeah, there are a lot of compartments that you
Yeah,
have to deal with and juggle at the same
yeah,
time. And I think especially when we're dealing with a time frame and things of that nature, uh, a lot of people kind of forget the big picture. Okay.
right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, I'm this age. I'm not married. But if you rush that part,
yes,
I'm not quite
uh-huh,
sure you would be in a better position
right,
than you're in right now if you were to have rushed that part. and we've have those, unfortunately we have those that's like, okay, well, oh, I did it right. I dated, blah, blah, blah. But yet they get to a point, but there's still some complications in having children. So just we think that it's a puzzle pieces that can just fit in, and then it unlocks the door to the next, thing. But it's complicated. It's with layers. There are a lot of people that struggle with this, even in this age group, because I mean, life is different than it was before. The options are not the options are difficult. And,
Right.
and I have a lot of friends that are struggling with that, because even though you see an available individual, they might not be healthy enough mentally, physically, uh,
Yeah.
financially, to
Yeah.
even deal with anything at this point,
Right.
because whether it be failure to launch, whether it be their upbringing, their background, whether it's just layers of things that we don't really take into consideration when we make a blanket statement like that. But it does, it opens up just Pandora's box, really.
Yeah, it does. And you're right. People are still struggling at all age
Yes.
about who they are, that
Hmm.
mirroring of the self when they look into, and some people just, it doesn't matter their age, even in adulthood,
No.
they're still struggling with, who am I? Who is this
Hmm.
person? And and that's a kind of a universal thing, because we dress a certain way, we fix our
Hmm.
hair a certain way, you drive a certain car, all of these things to answer the question of, who am I? And because we don't know, and then there is this peer pressure to live a certain quality of lifestyle. Okay,
Right.
they can go into some serious debt.
Yes, living outside your means,
Yeah.
going into debt to hang with a certain group, or do certain things that are not necessary within your budget. A lot of people fall into these things with these Ponzi schemes, and they lose their finances and things because they want this thing so bad. Yeah, it's a lot of things that can just really put you in a place that is not ideal because of your lack of self-worth and lack of how you see things to be.
Yeah. Listen, I want to thank you, but before we end, there's just one other area I want to touch on just real quickly.
Okay.
And that is the spiritual component. There is a spiritual piece
There
in
is.
all of this.
There
Okay.
is.
And I know you're gonna I know you're gonna answer this one here. We may not think so, but anyway, go ahead and talk about that spiritual piece, and then we're gonna cap it off right at that. Okay.
I tell you, the spiritual piece is the
Yes.
most important piece of it all, because there are a lot of people, even in this discussion that we've had, like, oh, well, I didn't have this opportunity. I wasn't afforded this um, influence. I wasn't, my experience was bad, or, oh, I'm living through an experience that's bad right now. The spiritual aspect of it gives you the faith and the missing piece that really rights the ship for those people that really tried to steer you, or direct you in a place that you didn't
Yeah.
want to go. And it's because the reason why that's the most important thing, we are going to the manufacturer who created us.
Oh
And
wow.
so
Come
it's
on
a
now.
beautiful thing. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to have a relationship and know the manufacturer, because he knows how you were formed, he knows how you're developed, he knows what you need, he knows how to get you to where you need to be. We just need to be willing and open to connect to that source so that we can be the best person that we can be, even through all that life and adulting has to offer.
I just love that, because um, I was in my vehicle last night, and I was having this kind of a light problem. And one light would come on, another one wouldn't go off, and clearly it was me. So So my wife went, I was over here trying to figure out all this stuff, us guys, we are trying to figure it out. Yeah. So what does my wife do? My wife goes around the other side. She goes into the glove compartment,
Yes.
pulls out the manual.
Yes.
Within a few minutes after
Hmm.
she read that, she said, "Oh, you need to do this and this and this." I said,
Yeah.
"Well, yeah, that's it. You are
Yes.
so right. The manufacturer knows
Yes.
the product.
Yes.
It really
That's true.
the person who created this, and then beneath the manufacturer are us, the
Yes.
parents.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah. Give us your last word on the importance of, if you have anything else to say on the importance of the connectivity then, and also bringing children to come to know that there is a manufacturer who did not make a mistake,
Right. Right.
but this thing called sin has kind of just jumped in and kind of reorganized some stuff, but it does not change the manufacturer's
It doesn't.
warranty. Oh, the warranty is always there, not just a
Yes.
warranty, a guarantee.
Yes. 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 So yeah, there are good practices that we can not only instill in our littles, our not so littles, but even the adults. We need to maintain
Yeah,
those personal boundaries. We need to
right.
make sure that they are strong and that they are in place. We need to understand our value. We need to understand our beliefs. We need to know that that is a strength of ours. And we also need to be aware of our weaknesses so that we
Yeah,
can know how to interact with people who will handle us appropriately. Because there are some that we expose ourselves to that can really just mishandle us, and that's not a good place to be either.
right,
We also need to build our support system, build our network. Church is a good place to do that.
right.
Building a relationship with God is a good place to do that. Making sure that our quality of friends, not quantity of friends,
Okay.
quality of friends is good. That needs to be something we consider. Not all friendships are good friendships. So we need to make sure that we choose those wisely. We also need to get acquainted with individuals. There are some acquaintances that help us get to the next level. That is a place where if you're looking in your work setting, making sure that you're having good work ethics and things of that nature. You don't want to be a workaholic, but you also don't want to be that person who's quick to use up all your sick leave. You
Mm-hmm,
need that
mm-hmm.
type of
Yeah.
balance so that you can have a better quality of life. So we need to build our self-esteem. We need to recognize that God created us for who we are, and we need to appreciate that. We need to also challenge ourselves to make sure that we just don't stay stagnant and we're just not good with where we are, but we want to have that growth so that we can feel good about where we are and what we have to offer to others.
Melanie, I just want to thank you. You did an amazing wrap up. It's that holistic or systemic approach. You went down around that whole thing about the way we should see ourselves, and the way we should be treated, and the way we should be pointed towards the manufacturer. Come to love the manufacturer. Say, listen, why they give warranties on other things? I have a guarantee, and it is it's so good for us to know. But I want to thank you.
Oh,
I
thank
want to
you.
thank you. Ooh. Listen. If you get that phone call from me again, don't be surprised. You know why? You know why? Because you always have so much to bring to us in different areas of life that people just need to understand. So once again, just give your name for those who came in late. And tell them what you're doing and how they can get in touch with you. Okay.
I'm Melanie Spence. I love helping people. I'm the best assistant. I feel, and the Lord has just helped me to be able to do that. And helping others get to a better mental health and mental thinking, and really just moving through this life and dealing with it the way that we can in Him. A good way to get to me is mspence at atouchofpeace.org.
That's mspence at a touch of
dot
peace.org to
org.
get in touch with our amazing guests that we had on tonight. Oh, yeah, that we had on tonight. I mean, you are not short of amazing
Oh, amen. Thank you.
information. You are not short. Are you sure you don't have a walking encyclopedia in your head or something?
Hey, hey. Hey, hey, we'll see.
listen,
I don't know. It
listen,
depends
listen.
on the day.
Listen, you were not and ahhing. I mean, you just gave it to us,
Oh, thank you.
which was really nice. Melanie, I just really want to, I really want to thank you so much for, for taking your time out. You have a family and so on, but you took your time to invest in other people, and that is a God-given quality that you have. And I know you're not wasting that, because you
Amen.
are here, and and so you just invested so much and deposited so much in people. So continue doing that, okay? And like I said, don't be
Thank you. Thank
surprised
you.
if somewhere down the road say, "Hey, listen, some folks are saying this, and they want you back on here to bring some more nuggets.
Hey, we're
They
all
want
about the
nuggets. You
nuggets.
bring them a whole fruit like this." Just a nugget.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, you're most welcome. All right, listen, you have a good evening, and hope everything goes well. Well, there you are, folks. That's it. We didn't get the rest of the story yet, but the rest of the story will come. If not sooner or later, it will come. Okay, because I really want to thank my guest tonight. That's Melanie Spence. She's a therapist, but she used to work on the front line, but now she is doing more of the administrative stuff, trying to find and get good kind of connectivity for people who are in need of a service. So again, I want to thank her, and I want to thank you all for being on with us this evening. And as always, before I leave, listen, this is the Shake Up with Dr. Kit. Let me tell you something. Let me demonstrate again. Listen, I got some stuff in here, and because of the way it was constructed, what I got in here, there's a lot of stuff settling at the bottom. So if I start drinking, I'm not going to get all the good stuff right up front. So I got to shake it up, shake it, shake it. When I shake it up, the mixture. And that's what we need to do with our relationships. If we just leave our relationship just sitting sedentary, all the good things about us just sink to the bottom like this. And we're trying to get in touch with people up here. But when we shake it up, not to hurt, but to bring recognition of movement will create stability. That's why, a person riding a bicycle, you know, I don't know how to stand still on the bicycle if it's not moving. But once there is movement on the bicycle, there is stability. And so we need to create movement in marriages, in relationships, whatever the relationship look like, to create some stability. Okay. So listen, if you'd like to be on the show, future show, email drkit@gmail.com. Email my team, drkit@gmail.com, to be considered for, as a future person on the show. We'd love to have you. Listen, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Everything about people comes down to relationship with people, places, or things. Okay. So it doesn't matter. You can be on camera. You can be off camera. We just want to have you on the show. We'd love to have you on the show. Okay. So please do that to be considered for a future participant in the show. And also remember to do this. You got to do what? You got to like, you got to follow, you got to share and subscribe. Like it, follow, share, and subscribe. In other words, tell people if there is something that you like, you go to your favorite restaurant, man, you're going to tell everybody, oh man, the food was good. I'm hoping that you feel the same way. I'm trying to do the best I can so that you can like, follow, share, and subscribe. Until then, I will see you on next Monday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, when we're hoping, and I'm hoping to have another good show for you. We got some folks lined up. We're going to have some good shows for you. And we want you to be one of the participants. Okay, so get in touch, call, email, drkitspeaks@gmail.com, and my team, They'll be ready to help you become that person. And also, refueling your relationships, that will be coming up on September 24th in Atlanta, Georgia. Here it is. It's called A Rest Stop, Refueling Your Relationship. My wife and I will be presenting some good nuggets, some good stuff for you couples. You come on in and get that special rate at $299, and singles you can get on in there at $165. And it's not just for 2 or 3 hours. We're talking about from 8:30 to 4:30. So you get all day for that. You listen, it's not just a couple hours, okay? And we are committed to sharing with you, but not just sharing. We are committed to actively engaging you in the Rest Stop Refueling Your Relationship experience. Okay, I don't want to give you away all the goodies, but I just want you to just know that it's out there for you. It's only going to be $299 for couples and $165 for singles. It's going to, once again, September 24th, Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, more information coming your way, and I'll see you. Thanks much for hanging in there with me. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.